Welcome, everybody. Let's see, I want to welcome any new attendees, any returning members. Welcome, everybody. I also want to recognize our plant-based nutrition support team, Paul Chatlin, founder of the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group and the face of an amazing inspirational story of going from nearly dead to strong, vibrant, and healthy through a plant-based lifestyle. Marion Treese, Director of Operations, Megan Burtz, Director of Support Groups, Brett Nyquist, Director of Technology. We wish he was on every one of these programs. We love you. And I also want to thank our amazing team of specialized hosts, you who each lead their own monthly support group meeting through our membership program. As Paul Chatlin likes to say, we are together as one, and we have the same passion towards helping others find success in this plant-based lifestyle. My name is Ann Schrader, and I'm the facilitator for the Basic Cooking, which is the second Monday of the month. And let's see, I've been living a plant-based lifestyle for over 9 years now. Yes, and I am a healthcare provider who has gone from symptom management to cure management using a plant-based lifestyle. And I'm also, I don't practice as cardiac nurse anymore, but I am a holistic health coach. I have certification through the Colin Campbell Center for Nutritional Sciences with plant-based nutrition. And I do SOS to the best of my ability, no salt, no oil, no sugar. And it has worked well for me. It took 18 months to really get a rhythm of it. So support is helpful when you're trying to get a rhythm in it. And it's always a learning strategy. I just learned something the other day. I learned you can actually make your own tofu. I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, and it's not that hard. I haven't done it yet, but it's always a learning process. And with plant-based nutrition support group here, we all learn from each other, no matter how early or how experienced you are in doing this. It still makes it exciting, I think. Let's see. Let's see. This is not recorded. I think this is the only one of the month that is not recorded, and but the other ones are. So feel free to, if you're new, to look at all of the variety of topics that you can plug into. As attendees know, plant-based nutrition is, if you're new to the platform, you can access it through the live virtual events, cooking demos, support group meetings, and more. Please pass along this information to family and friends. And what else? I want to introduce some guests because I want to get going because I'm already late. I do want to say there's a whole calendar, so go under the event tab on the plant-based nutrition group. There's a whole calendar of stuff. Every week it is just packed full of things. So you're going to find something to fit your bill. All right, with that, I'm going to introduce our presenter today, Barb Chwierut. I make sure I pronounced that correctly. Thank you, Barb. She's a retired speech and language pathologist specializing in assistive technology. You are specializing in assistive technology.
Assistive technology, not IT. Very different.
Well, it's closer than I am. And she's been whole food plant-based for over 13 years and is extremely passionate about this lifestyle. Her introduction to the plant-based lifestyle began after watching the documentary Forks Over Knives. Barb now has a certification in plant-based nutrition through the Center of Nutritional Sciences, the Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall, and is also a licensed Food for Life instructor through PCRM. Yay, I plugged into that. That is really cool.
That was fun.
Yes. Tonight, Barb will present an introduction to the whole food plant-based lifestyle for improved health and weight loss. And she is the facilitator for her group for weight loss on the first Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I am Idaho time, which is Mountain time. Many of you are Eastern. But anyway, so on to you, Barb.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me today. And I just want to say that, yes, this meeting is not recorded and put into the PBNSG website. But if you have friends or family who are not members of PBNSG, the community support meetings are placed on PBNSG's YouTube channel. So you can
Oh, I didn't
review
know
it
that.
there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sue, which I admit I have not gone to yet. So I am going to share my screen.
And I will be checking the chat. So if people want to
Oh,
put
thank you.
questions in
And
the
I
chat,
am
I will.
very informal and I value questions and comments. So, I'm here for you. Sue, yes, as Anne said, I'm going to provide an intro to the whole food plant-based lifestyle for improved health and weight loss. And just want to say to everyone that this presentation explores the benefits of the whole food plant-based lifestyle, but it is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It's always important to work with your physician or qualified healthcare provider before adjusting meds or making major diet changes. So, especially if some of you are viewing this today and you are not whole food plant-based and you just want to begin it, it's very important, especially if you are on medications, to let your healthcare provider know that you're going plant-based, because especially if you've got cardiovascular issues or you're on medications for diabetes, your medications will probably be lessened or eliminated, somewhat quickly. So it's important to work with them. So, yes, as Anne said, I was a speech language pathologist, retired, and you'll hear my story. My story is my husband's story, and we've been plant-based for about 13 years. Um, and I was planning on going back to work part-time after I retired, and a lot's happened in my life, which is why I've become even more passionate about the plant-based lifestyle. So my husband convinced me to just retire and to go back and get certified and to do, work and promote the plant-based lifestyle. So at the bottom, you will see my email. It's barbchw@comcast.net. Everything I do in gratitude for what we've been given. You'll hear why after my story. So I don't have a website, but I do free food for life classes. So if anybody's viewing this and would like to be on my email list, just shoot me an email and I'll include you on my email list and let you know when I do more free classes. And they'll be coming soon. So my story is my husband's story, and he's fine with me sharing it. At 42, he had a mild heart attack. At that time, we were told eat salmon, chicken, olive oil, and red wine. And he never really was a drinker before. He'd have a beer now and then at a ball game or a glass of wine at some party. But he started having a glass of wine every night, and I minimally used oil. I really didn't use a lot of oil in my cooking, but I got olive oil and started putting it in veggies and putting it in things that I wouldn't normally put things in. And talk about a boring meal. For years, we were living on salmon and chicken breasts, and we'd get pizza, we'd make it, we'd order it, and it would just be plain dry pizza with some chicken breast on it. Boring, boring, boring. Well, after several years of going whole food plant-based, he started to quote, sway. Never going eating animal products, but starting to eat more of those refined carbs, the white breads, the white pasta, having more oil, especially if we were traveling. He would go out for, business lunches and dinners, and even if he had a healthy great salad, he would have a vinaigrette dressing, and all vinaigrette dressings are 3/4 oil. He was probably starting to eat some fat-free sweets that I wasn't aware of. Never at home, but probably getting some of those as well. Well, he started to gain weight, a significant amount of weight. And in January, February of 2020, he got really ill, only missed one day of work, but was so sick that when he came home from work, he really couldn't eat. He couldn't even watch TV. We truly believe it was COVID, based on me getting sick for about a week, losing my taste buds, and knowing what we know now. And then in May of 2020, in front of me on a Sunday morning, he had a cardiac arrest. He was dead for several minutes. Um, and I just want you all to know he is still working. In fact, today he had about an 11-hour day, and he's doing really well. But it was very touch and go. He was hospitalized for 5.5 weeks. He was on a ventilator for 11 days. He was on dialysis for 4 weeks. And it was during COVID that I was not able to see him. I was in total shock with everything. He was admitted with double pneumonia. He was in multi-organ failure, heart, liver, lungs, and kidney failure. They were talking possibly a trach, and I'm a speech pathologist, so I was very aware of everything. But from the first day that he was admitted to the hospital, I let them know he's plant-based. Even the ensure I wouldn't allow to be animal-based, so they gave him a plant-based ensure. And people are like, this happened and he was plant-based. Well, in December of 2019, he had blood workup done and everything was absolutely perfect. So we believe that he had some kind of a strange virus and this happened. Um, when he went into rehab, not cardiac rehab, he was only in that inpatient rehab for about a half a week. He was only able to stand for 8 seconds with a walker. So because of the atrophy for all those weeks, he had to also relearn how to walk. So believe me, we do not sway from the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I want others to know how important it is to really stick to it if you're passionate about it. So results from the 2017-2018 National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey estimated that about 42.5% of adults in the United States aged 20 and over have obesity, including 9% with severe obesity, and over 31% are overweight. From 1999 to 2000 to 2017 to 2018, the age-adjusted prevalence of obesity increased from 30.5% to 42.5%, and the prevalence of severe obesity increased from 4.7 to 9.2. And then the results from the 2017-2018 survey indicate that an estimated 19.3% of children in the United States and adolescents ages 2 to 19 have obesity, including 6% with severe obesity, and another 16.1 are overweight. And those numbers are just increasing. So there is a great little free app, a BMI calculator, which I do encourage you, to get and to calculate your BMI. And these are, the numbers for going from underweight to overweight and obesity. So there are lots of medical problems associated with obesity: heart disease, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, asthma, osteoarthritis, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, as well as certain types of cancer. So what's the difference between diet and lifestyle changes? Well, Dr. Neil Barnard from the Food for Life program said that it's really a myth that people gain weight by eating too many calories. In fact, they gain weight by eating too much fat. The fat in the foods actually adds the fat on your body. So, what should I eat? Well, eat those real foods, whole food, plant-based. About 10% of your daily calories from fat, 10% from protein, and 80% of unrefined carbs. And that's really important. So, those complex carbs, they're gradually broken apart into simple sugars and absorbed and used for energy in the body. They're high in fiber, and you'll hear us all in our groups talking about how important and good fiber is for you and how you're going to get a lot of fiber if you're eating those whole foods. They're also low in fat, and most importantly, they're very filling. So you're going to reach satiety a lot sooner, and you're automatically going to be eating less in the day. Now, those refined carbs lead to health problems and weight gain. Those are the white grains, the white flours, the sugar, the syrups, the candy. And about 80% of nutrients are lost in those refined grains, but they're going to be found in the whole grains. So we want to eat those starches. Don't be afraid of starches. I have so many friends that really are afraid of, eating foods like potatoes. So you want whole grains, and there's a big variety: barley, brown rice, bulgur wheat, corn, farro, millet, oats, rye, spelt, a variety of beans and lentils. And you can see black beans and chickpeas and kidney beans and black-eyed peas and green, red, and brown lentils. So you definitely don't have to have boring meals. And don't be afraid of those starchy veggies, potatoes, sweet potatoes, those squashes, acorn, butternut squash, and pumpkins. We don't have to worry about eating potatoes and sweet potatoes. It's the butter, the sour cream, the margarine, the bacon that we put on those potatoes that are not healthy. We also want to eat a variety of non-starchy veggies. They're a great source of vitamins, minerals, fiber, and water, but on their own, they don't provide enough calories for satiety. We were out with friends, at a restaurant not too long ago, and I mentioned to our friends that it wasn't a group, but I was mentioning to this couple, like, oh, I eat an awful lot of food a day. And I do. I eat a good portion of food. And they says, well, I'm sure you do because all you eat are veggies. And I'm like, that's not true. I don't live on, carrots and kale. I eat a nice variety of those starches because if I only ate those non-starchy veggies, I would be hungry all the time and I would be eating non-stop. But they add a lot of flavor, aroma, texture, color, and variety to your plate. Also, fruits. Don't be afraid of fruits. They're a great sweet addition to a meal, a dessert, a between meal snack. And I often make nice cream with my fruit as well. But you can see there's a variety: your citrus fruits, your berries, your summerstone fruits like your peaches and your nectarines and cherries and apricots and plums, apples, pears, and grapes, and your tropical fruits also. So for those veggies and fruits, you just want to eat a rainbow of colors, a nice variety. So, what is the difference between whole food, plant-based eating and vegan? And I think this is really, really important because nowadays you can go into many, many restaurants. You can look at their menu and they're going to have a little asterisk that these dishes are vegan. You could go into any grocery store, even look at junk food, and it's going to say plant-based or vegan. Well, it's very well could be vegan, but vegan foods actually include oil and a lot of junk foods. They have those refined flours, French fries, fried in oil could be vegan. Candy and cookies could easily be vegan, but that's not to say that they are whole food plant-based and that they're going to give you improved health or weight loss. So T. Colin Campbell actually coined the term whole food plant-based in the 1980s. And you might hear us say that we have a low-fat vegan diet, that we're plant strong or plant perfect. So you might be thinking, okay, where do I get my protein from? Those are, two questions, protein and calcium. Well, protein's important. It helps to build, maintain, and repair our body tissue, but a protein deficiency is almost unheard of in the United States. And if you eat a varied plant-based diet, you can easily meet our daily protein needs. An average man about 56 grams a day, and an average woman about 48 grams of protein. And you can see in these pictures, I mean, look at these, huge animals who are not eating any meat. They are eating their plants, and they're doing quite well. So some plant-based sources of protein are lentils. 1 cup of cooked lentils is close to 18 grams of protein. Quinoa, about 11 grams. Anne was talking about tofu earlier. A half a cup of tofu is about 20 grams of protein. A cup of broccoli, almost 5, and a cup of chickpeas, 14.5 grams. So you make yourself a great salad and include your grains, your lentils or your chickpeas on it, and you're getting, quite a bit of protein for just one meal. Um, so what's the difference between plant-based protein and animal protein? Well, research shows that plant-based protein actually reduces the risk of early death from any cause and from heart disease. And those consuming animal protein actually increase their risk of death by chronic disease by about 23%. And those who ate animal protein had a 5-fold increase in the risk of death related to diabetes. So some of the sources, that I research are from the Center for Nutrition Studies, Forks Over Knives, and PCRM, the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. So the same with calcium. Calcium's very important. It's a key mineral in human health. It helps carry messages between your brain and the rest of your body. It helps your nerves and muscles move, helps to transport enzymes and hormones through the blood, keeps our muscles, nerves, and blood vessels functioning well, plays an important role in maintaining blood pressure, and enables the heart to receive signals and contract. It's known for promoting, bone health, but it's thought to be synonymous with dairy. And there are many dangers associated with dairy, including certain cancers. But there are great plant sources of calcium. So seeds, which you can sprinkle on salads, on your veggies, on your oatmeal, a half a cup of sesame seeds, have about 350 milligrams of calcium. An ounce of chia seeds, about 180 milligrams of calcium. And I am going to talk a little bit later about, be careful of nuts and seeds because they are more calorie dense. Also beans, you can see here that navy beans have about 60 milligrams of calcium for a half a cup, but black beans have 160 milligrams of calcium for a half a cup. And that's actually what I had for my meal today. But you can add the beans to soups and salads and pastas and tacos and pizza. Be creative. Also, lentils are a great source of calcium, 1 cup having 80 milligrams of calcium. And those also you can add to soups and salads, make a lentil loaf, make a chili, etc. Almonds are another calcium-rich food, which you can eat as a snack or again add to salads and muffins and pancakes. Half a cup of raw almonds have about 80 milligrams of calcium, and 2 tablespoons of almond butter have about 80. Now, also those low oxalate greens. And I do try to add greens to like all my soups and stews. Even if the recipe doesn't call it, I always have some chopped frozen kale or spinach in the freezer. And, I just throw it into my soups or throw it into my stews to get some extra greens in the day. But there are oxalates that are found in some leafy greens like spinach Swiss chard and beet greens, and that can actually block your calcium absorption. But a half a cup of collard greens has 300 milligrams of calcium. Cup of bok choy has 60 milligrams, and a cup of kale has about 80. So again, add variety with your, leafy greens, and don't just eat the same greens every day or at every meal. Soy also is calcium rich. You can use extra firm in stir fries. Make a breakfast scramble with extra firm tofu. Use it in pasta dishes. Use the silken in smoothies, sauces, and hummus. I actually make a tasty raspberry frosting for a kale cake, which is the Esselstyn's recipe, and I use the silken tofu for that. Also, edamame you can use in your salads and hummus, and use soy milk in place of cow's milk, either in cereal or when you're baking. 100 grams of tofu have about 175 milligrams of calcium. A cup of soy milk has about 100 milligrams, and a half a cup of edamame has about 60. Also, oranges. Oranges are noted for, vitamin C, and yes, they do have vitamin C, but also one medium navel orange has 8 milligrams of calcium. You're also going to find calcium in broccoli. A cup has about 40 milligrams, and broccoli rapini, which can be boiled, sautéed, seasoned, roasted, one bunch has about 515 milligrams of calcium. So we're going to talk about calorie density. And I think calorie density is really important to understand because it's going to give you the why we can eat so much plant-based food and not either put on weight or maintain our weight. So we do need nutritious whole foods to fuel our body. We need food and water, but humans are hardwired to enjoy pleasurable experiences, which leads to our survival. So our ancestors, in order to survive in nature, they had to find their food. And because they had to find it, it was difficult. So they had to find the most efficient food with the most calories. So do they eat 20 bananas versus 45 cucumbers? Well, it would be easier to eat 20 bananas. But today, we don't choose between a banana and a cucumber. We choose between a banana and a cheeseburger. So dopamine is released in our brain when we're experiencing pleasure, like eating that cheeseburger. And the more calorie dense food we start to consume, the more dopamine is released. So our body is still seeking out calorie density. And it's so easy to find in fast food restaurants, convenience stores, processed foods that are high in sugar, oil, which is fat, and salt. And most of those processed foods are high in sugar, fat, and salt. And just think when you're going to the grocery store and you're checking out, you might have a whole cart of, pretty healthy food, but then you're checking out and you're going to see, all the candy bars, which you might easily be drawn to. So our stomach actually responds to stretch and calories. As long as we eat those natural whole foods, the stretch of our stomach and our calorie density correlate. But processed foods, the water, the fiber, the nutrients are removed, and the stretch of our stomach and calorie density no longer correlate. So our bodies become really confused. They think they're not getting enough calories, so they want even more calories. And what happens? We eat more unhealthy food, and we start to, gain more weight. So if we continue to eat those fast foods, those highly processed, high calorie density foods, we start to develop a dependence to this dopamine hit, and we start seeking out the pizza, the brownies, the candy, especially when we're stressed or we're depressed, we had a hard day, just like, at 10 to 6 today, Chicago time, when we were trying to log on and had some tech issues. Like, I might say, oh, I'm going to end this session with a nice piece of chocolate cake. But I no longer need that to, feel less stressed. So we start to develop a tolerance to these foods. And then we need to seek even a greater high, which means we want more processed foods and we gain even more weight. So over time, we gain less pleasure from low calorie density foods, such as those fruits and veggies. So this is really important to try to understand that 1 gram of carbs is only 4 calories. And those are any of those carbs, potatoes, sweet potatoes, um, your your whole grain bread. Again, I'm not talking about going to a restaurant and consuming, a whole loaf of that, just baked hot, French bread at a restaurant. But your beans, your whole wheat pastas, your red lentil pastas, your chickpea pastas, which are carbs, but are healthy carbs. Now, a gram of fat is 9 calories per pound, which is more than double. And it doesn't matter if it's fat from beef or pork or chicken or fish or cheese or oil or salad dressings. um, Fat is fat and it's very calorie dense. So the average adult eats about 4 pounds of food per day. If you have food that's the same serving size, it's going to have different amounts of calories if we're talking carbs or fat. So if we are eating whole food plant-based, we really don't worry about portion size. We don't restrict the eating of our healthy foods, okay? Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about calorie density, and if your goal is weight loss, it's a little bit different than maintaining. So we do want to watch, some of the foods that might be considered plant-based. So satiety keeps you feeling full. It keeps your appetite in line. But if you're hungry, it's very, very, very easy to reach for an unhealthy snack. And, believe me, I totally get it. If you're feeling full, though, it's much easier to fight temptation or, to go have maybe a glass of water before you reach for something or go for a little walk or, just kind of divert your attention from the food if you are feeling full. But hunger is telling your body it's time to eat. If you don't have a plan, it's very easy to eat whatever is within your reach, if it's healthy or not. If you are driving and you don't have a plan, you don't have food with you, it's very easy to run, through a drive-through, to run to a convenience store, and you're probably not going to get a banana or an apple, which is easy to eat. You're probably going to get one of those muffins or cookies that are right at the cash register. And this can very, very easily lead to increased weight. So this is our stomach, okay? Now let's look at the first picture, which is 400 calories of veggies. And you can see the stomach is totally full. Now in the middle, we've got 400 calories of beef, not even half full. And then the last picture is 400 calories of oil. That is a very small amount of food in your stomach, and they're all 400 calories. So this is a chart that I came up with, and you want to aim for the colorful target, eating the rainbow of nutrient-rich foods that have low calorie density. So at only 60 to 100 calories per pound, we have our non-starchy veggies. And you can see, asparagus and broccoli and green beans and kale and lettuce and mushrooms and spinach. Then our fruit is about 3 to 400 calories per pound. And then those unrefined complex carbs are between 400 to 600. So those starchy veggies, the potatoes and the sweet potatoes, the grains, the brown rice and the quinoa, and the legumes, the peas, the beans, and the lentils. Now, in the yellow, circle, we've got foods that are, not totally unhealthy, which if you are at your ideal weight, or if you are plant-based and you need to gain weight, you might be eating more of. So an avocado, 750 calories per pound. Those dried fruits, again, they're fruit, they're healthy, but they're 1,200 calories per pound versus if you were eating the fresh fruit, which is only 300 to 400 calories per pound. And that's because the water is out of the dried fruits. They're still nutritious, but you might just kind of add that to a salad or to a dish more as a condiment. Those breads, those whole grain breads, and we do eat bread, but minimally, not every day even, because that's 1,400 calories per pound. And then you've got your nuts, your seeds, your nut butter, and tahini at 2,800 calories per pound. So again, that is very, very calorie dense. When we're talking our non-starchy veggies are only 60 to 100 calories per pound, and even our, starchy veggies and our whole grains and our beans and lentils are 400 to 600 calories per pound. But again, that is the one thing that, some of the plant-based doctors tend to disagree with, the nuts and the seeds and the nut butters. So it's really important, especially if you have cardiovascular issues, to, work with your physician. Do you eat any? But I know around the holidays, we got some gifts. I did have some more nuts and seeds than I would consume, and some nut butters. And, of course, I did some, whole food plant-based baking, even for gifts and your sampling. I did put on like 2 pounds, but, the holidays are over and those pounds are gone as well. And I knew I would. And I still maintained, my weight. Now, those foods in the red are foods that we really want to avoid, either because of the calorie density or because they don't have the nutrients of plant-based foods. So our meats and our sugar is 1,800 calories per pound. Our processed cakes and donuts at 2,700 calories per pound, butter at 3,200 calories per pound. And again, all oils. And it doesn't matter if it's avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil or sunflower oil. Oil is oil at 4,000 calories per pound. And that's why it's really important, if you're going, especially out to eat, and you may order a beautiful salad, and then you ask for, do you have balsamic vinegar? And oftentimes, they're not quite sure what you're asking for. So they'll say, oh, yeah, we have balsamic vinaigrette. Well, all vinaigrettes are 3/4 oil. So all vinaigrette dressings are very calorie dense. So, do be cautious. We just bring our own dressing with us when we go out, or we just ask for a squeeze of fresh lime and fresh lemons. Now, again, with the oils, it's important to talk to your healthcare provider, because there's even a little discrepancy with doctors, about oils. So again, as I said, oil is the most calorie dense food on the planet at 4,000 calories per pound. And just keep that in the back of your, mind when you are maybe at a restaurant or you're reading labels. But even olive oil, all the pulp and the fibers removed, so you're eating only the fattest, the fattest part. Now our arteries are lined with an extremely thin protective layer of endothelial cells, which produce nitric oxide. and it keeps our blood vessels flexible, prevents artery blockage, and counteracts inflammation. And I have to say, when my husband was hospitalized for the cardiac event, he had 100% inflammation in his body. And he had been remote because of COVID for March, April, through 3 months. And believe me, he didn't have um, anything bad. He was eating, very healthy during those 3 months. But if you're eating meals laden with oils, those cells gradually lose their ability to produce nitric oxide. And keep in mind that there are traces of healthy fats in your veggies and your fruits and your beans. So again, talking about calorie density, what do you think is more filling? You can have this muffin, which is 37% fat, or three medium potatoes, which is 0.1% fat. And I think I'm speaking for you as well. Ann and I both enjoy our potatoes. In fact, we had, some air fried potatoes today. But I'll often make myself a baked potato. And I'm happy with just pepper on it. My husband likes either a little barbecue sauce or mustard. And if we're out and about and we're starving, we will get a baked potato, at Wendy's, even if we're not prepared. What's more filling? At 240 calories, the 16-ounce vanilla cappuccino, which is 21% fat, or 3 cups of mixed veggies. I would think the 3 cups of veggies. Or at 150 calories, you can have 6 kisses, which are 46% fat. And, from my experience, if you've got the bag in front of you, you probably aren't going to stop at 6. Or you can have this beautiful salad. And this was actually from a restaurant. We just asked for a nice array of veggies and added fruit. And we had that with just balsamic vinegar. We'll either bring our own, or if we don't have it, or if the restaurant doesn't have balsamic vinegar, we'll just ask for some fresh lemons and limes and squeeze that on. And it's very, very, very tasty. So, calorie counting versus changing the way you eat. Well, over the years, when I was in high school and college, and even after that, I was always dieting. I've probably lost maybe 30, 35 pounds going whole food, plant-based. And what's really fun is that I could eat and not think about calories, not think about I have to stop or I can't have that. I can eat lots of delicious meals and not worry about counting the calories. So you might tell yourself you're going to have 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day, but those can be used up before dinner. You're going to be hungry by the end of the day. And how many times have people started a diet? They're either going to give up before there's noticeable weight loss, or they're going to lose their weight. And then you go back to eating the way you used to eat, and you gain the weight back and often then some. So, how am I going to stir it on this whole food plant-based lifestyle? Well, I'm giving a lot of classes. I'm giving classes with a friend at a local health club. um, I really think that people make this a lot more difficult than it has to be. Um, and, even from my experience, and I have to say, I am not a person who can just create meals. I use recipes, and I say this all the time. We at PBNSG have fantastic hosts, and being one of them, who could be extremely creative. My mind doesn't work that way, but it's okay because there are resources and there are cookbooks. So it doesn't have to work that way. You can find a way to eat whichever works best for you. But you want to start with those familiar foods. Make it quick and easy. Have the rice, the grains, the pastas, the potatoes. Eat simple and you can still have variety. You can add different spices, different veggies, different fruits, different dressings. If you are using prepared sauces, it's very important to read those labels carefully to avoid the sugars and the fats and the salts. And you want to choose products with the fewest artificial ingredients. So you want to keep your pantry, your fridge, your freezer well stocked. I'm not going to lie, it does take planning. It, but once you get in the swing of things, it doesn't have to be difficult. I am the type of person that can eat the same meals over and over again. I probably have a lot more, I know I have a lot more favorite meals than there are meals in the week because we tend to like, oh, we really like this. We're going to have this. I'm going to make extra. I'm going to have it for 2 days. But you want to prepare, portion, refrigerate, and freeze foods, get into batch cooking, and then you'll be ready when you don't feel like cooking or when you need food really quick. Find a few meals that you like and enjoy those often. It might be beans and rice with some salsa and some corn tortillas, a bowl of soup with some whole grain bread, maybe with some hummus on it. We do like the Cedars hummus that we get at Whole Foods if you don't want to make your own. And they do have an oil-free, fat-free Cedars hummus, which we really like. A whole wheat, a lentil, chickpea pasta with marinara and veggies, sweet potatoes with steamed broccoli, bean burgers. I always have bean burgers in my freezer wrapped in parchment paper, and that is, it takes like 15 minutes to prepare. I make a nice big salad with balsamic vinegar dressing. I've really been ordering a lot of vinegars from California. Is it California Balsamics? Loving the 7 herb one. Somebody brought it at a potluck and I am addicted to it. It's so tasty. So I have that with a baked potato or some veggies or some sweet potato fries. And it's okay to purchase frozen veggies, frozen fruits, pre-cut leafy greens, pre-cut fresh veggies if it's going to be easier for you. Perfection, don't be hard on yourself and don't aim for perfection. Um, you you don't want to stress yourself out. You want to eat in the least restrictive way. Try not to get off track, but if you have a bad day, just start back on your whole food plant-based lifestyle immediately. So let's say for some reason you went out at lunch or somebody brought food in and you ate something at lunch that was not whole food plant-based. Don't say to yourself, oh, I really messed up at lunch, so I'm going to go home and I'm going to order a big deep dish pizza. Start back immediately, but don't be hard on yourself. Um, I've been doing this for 13 years, and I tell everybody it's a process. I'm trying to stay better hydrated. I'm trying to exercise more. I'm trying to sleep better. I'm trying to get different recipes. Um, every day is a learning experience. So don't be hard on yourself. And those of you who belong to PBNSG, you've got all of us as a support. Um, we are all here for you. These are a few of our favorite meals. The first one is actually a waffle, but it's made with oatmeal. I have to say I'm just not really fond of the texture of oatmeal. But I make oatmeal, put a little cinnamon in it, Ceylon cinnamon, and I do use some pure maple syrup. But instead of pouring it over my pancake or my waffle, I dip it. Here you see a chili with tortilla chips. I make my own tortilla chips. It's so super easy. I just get um, corn tortillas, and the corn tortillas, usually I get them from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. And one of them, the ingredients are just corn and lime. Sometimes you will see corn, lime, and salt. So it's a little bit of salt, but minimal. And I just cut them in triangles and put them in the oven or the air fryer. From experience, you do have to keep an eye on them because they will easily burn. Some pasta with some tomatoes and some broccoli and mushrooms. This is the Esselstyn's kale cake with a raspberry tofu frosting with berries on it. A pizza, and this was actually from a restaurant with mushrooms and no cheese. A strawberry nice cream that I've made in the Vitamix, but now I have a Ninja Creamy, which I totally love. Just a salad, and this was from a restaurant with some balsamic glaze. This is a fudgy raspberry black bean brownie, and that recipe is from PCRM with some raspberry sorbet. This is a wrap that was at a restaurant, and it is modified. I'll check the ingredients. Again, I'm just a little bit more paranoid, so if there's hummus on a wrap, um, I just tell them no hummus because it probably does have oil in it. If we're traveling and we get wraps, we bring our own hummus to add to it. And this is just a platter of treats. I love to bake. Those of you who know me, I really enjoy baking. So when I go to friends' houses or just for neighbors for holidays and in gratitude, I see our two fire departments and police departments twice a year for the holidays and in May, and I take them a platter of plant-based treats in gratitude. Let them know that I'm there to give a class for them as well, but they've never taken me up on that. So here's a couple of resources. Of course, PBNSG, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Besides their website, they have a 21-day Kickstart app, which is free. Dr. McDougall's site, Forks Over Knives. Those of you who belong to PBNSG, you probably are aware of the documentary Forks Over Knives, and so many people I know that are plant-based have become plant-based after watching Forks Over Knives, and we did it in a week. We did it in a week. My husband probably stirred it in a day, and I had a couple pieces of salmon. I finished the salmon instead of throwing it out or giving it to somebody, and by the end of the week, we had no we have not had any animal products. The Forks Over Knives app, I really like. It's a one-time fee, and then they keep adding more and more recipes. Dr. Greger's site, the Center for Nutrition Studies, and Chef AJ. Also check out her YouTube videos. And there are, tons of resources, many of which are free. And if you sign up on their website, you will, get emails with great recipes and great resources. So I thank you. Any questions? You can,
That was well.
oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
I'm unmuted.
you.
Um,
And you can put a
Very
question in
nice.
the chat, or Ann and I think, or I can speak for Ann. We're both very flexible. It's fine to ask a question as well.
Yeah, very good information from Marilyn, but she did have to leave quickly. So
No
she says,
problem.
thank you very much. And she really appreciates it. And thank you from Mike McKibben as well. Um, I just want to say, I love the flow of of helping somebody new to really kind of see where we're at, moving into shifting, what it means to shift and how to shift. Um,
Thank you. I think
Very, very nice.
people
Yeah,
really
I didn't.
stress out, and you don't have to. Don't you find that, Ann?
No, no, yeah, well, I admit I did at first. So if somebody is new, it's like, oh my heavens, what does that mean? These changes that I gotta make. And you kind of freak out a little bit. But you're right, Barb, keeping it simple. Um, and I love how you said, though, how our body was so used to having lower caloric dense foods to help our satiety level realize that our stomach, has had enough when it stretches, right? When our receptors stretch. And our caloric density at the time before processing was meeting that mold, right? It was keeping our calories 1800 or whatever calories per day. And but now with this hyper caloric density is the most common food in America, it's so easy to overeat. So our body is like this old version body, regular, healthy, regulating body, but we're in an environment that just doesn't suit it. And it just, I caught on to that somehow. So, um,
Oh, I see Mike asking a question. Any thoughts on
yeah,
dealing with a family? Um, I lost it in the chat. Um,
yeah, and dealing with the whole food. Uh, any thoughts on dealing with a family that will not eat whole food plant-based and my environment can't be cleaned, so I just have to come and deal with it. So what are your thoughts on how do
well, I
you
mean, seriously,
yeah,
um, let them know why you want to go plant-based. Is it because you have medical issues? Is it because of weight? Is it because you don't want to have medical issues? Maybe encourage them to watch Forks Over Knives with you. Um, Initially, we would have Forks Over Knives parties a lot. And I would have friends come over and really just convert it. One friend who's truly 100% plant-based now, well, 98%. Um, but other friends who've watched it have tried it for a while and da da da. It is harder. It is much harder if that food is in your environment. Because as Chef AJ will say, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will eat it. Perhaps, if you have two refrigerators, they could have one, you can have another, or, you can have a certain shelf, you can have a certain cabinet that's yours. And, I think a lot's going to depend how you feel about having the food around you. Are you going to be tempted? I have to say, truly, um, I never got tempted. I really didn't get tempted by the other food. I could go out, even in the beginning, I could go out and people could be eating chocolate lava cake and they could try to entice me to eat it. And I'm like, no, but you have to find your why. And I was doing, oh, a summit, last week. And they said, you not only have to find your why, you have to find your why that makes you cry. Now, 13 years ago, I had a why, and it was my husband's health. It was more my husband's health than my health. But I did it because I was passionate about him being healthy. In the last 5 years, I have my why that makes me cry. And I do this and I say this to people because I truly, truly, truly don't want anybody to have to go through what I've gone through. I have so many friends who have so many medical issues and keep taking more and more meds and keep feeling worse. And they won't even try this for a week or two. Perhaps if you try going whole food plant-based and quickly start to see some changes, either in how you feel or how you look or with lab results, it might motivate your friends and family to make some changes as well. What about you, Anne? What are your thoughts? I definitely value what you have to say.
Sorry, I was distracted. What was the
No, no,
question?
no, just about if you've got a family members who are not plant-based and, you
Well,
know.
I think, yeah, I, my thinking is that they don't have to agree with you, but ask them if they would respect you
Mhm.
and if they would just support what is important to you. They don't have to agree with the whole thing, but like if they value you, perhaps they can just show their support in certain ways. And people usually want to know, like, okay, how can I be kind? How can I support you? And then just give them maybe three different directives. Like perhaps keep your things, out of sight
Mhm.
so I don't get visual stimulation. If we could figure out what that looks like, and then also uh, refrain from temptating, tempting you, like bringing home chocolate for Valentine's Day, or
Mhm.
but redirect them on how they can support you. Like instead, maybe some flowers, or give them some ideas of how they can show their love to you, but yet in a way that's helpful to you, right?
And
Maybe three different things.
I'll be honest, we had this talk in a group we were doing a couple weeks ago. Um, it's not that I don't allow animal products in my house because my friends all respect us. If we go to their house though, I know we're often not invited places because of how we eat. Okay, I will say that. But all in all, people they all respect how we eat, and they know what we've gone through, and they see the results. But if I'm going to someone's house and they want to make something, I'll always say, hey, just make a baked potato. If you really want to do that, and offer to bring something. But okay, you can start the meal with a salad, and everybody can have a salad. And if they want different salad dressing than you, that's okay. You could easily have a taco bar. And, some people may be putting meat on their tacos. You're not. You're putting beans. It's a choice. You can easily have pizza night where you just have all the different toppings. And, we usually get our crust from Plant Strong, which we like. And we've got another grocery shop by us that has their own bakery, and I buy these great whole wheat, like flat pitas that make really crispy shells. So, I mean, I have one friend who will only eat burgers and pizza with cheese and steak. And, we ordered him a pizza. And I have to respect but this is just me. I have to respect how he eats as well, because when I go to their house, they respect how I eat. And I don't judge, and I'm sure, we don't judge. We just say, this works for us. And yeah.
Yeah, and then Mike goes on to say, these are topics that he's tried. The frustration is that he gets on a roll, and then if he has a slip up, it can be weeks before he gets back on track. And um, and that's where I say plugging into PBNSG, you know, giving Barbara I a call even, or an email.
Yeah.
Anybody on the website, we have been there, done that. Um, and that's what the whole support group is for. So we'll give you encouragement, we'll listen, we'll share our stories, you know, coming from different perspectives helps. So um,
One thing that
yeah,
I
that's
really do enjoy, and I do enjoy learning, and I do enjoy the research, and I do enjoy hearing from people, so that when I'm multitasking, I could be cooking or cleaning or, whatever. In the background, I'll often have a podcast on.
yeah.
I mean, it could be Chef AJ, or, I just bought the health bundle, so it'll be something from there. It could be something from PBNSG. And, I'll just, even listen to it on my phone. And that really motivates me when I hear the research, when I hear, a success story. So it might be something, if that would motivate you, to plug into that right away. And find a dish that you really enjoy, some plant-based dish that you might really enjoy, um, you know, to make for yourself.
I think,
And for some
Yes.
reason, I can't get into the chat. Yeah.
Oh,
I
I don't
think,
know.
yeah, I have a couple comments. Mike, I really feel how you're, um, to me, it reminds me of the talk I heard from Dr. Lyle, I think, on the pleasure trap,
Yeah.
where he describes the dopamine cycle, um, and the seductive nature of anything that we might become addicted to, and um, and our memory, our brain has a way that dopamine response. The brain has a way of remembering what triggers the that response, and uh, seasonality comes into play with this too. That theory that um, when you during the hunter-gatherer period of human history, when we would find nuts on the ground today, then the next day we'd say, oh, there were nuts on the ground over there. Let's go back and get them. And we keep going back, and it's for the calorie density and all that sort of stuff. So um, we repeat going back, going back, going back. And then we want to eat more and more because we're storing up for winter, of course, and and we go until there are no more, and because we don't know when to quit. And then they fall out of season, and we keep going back because, yeah, they're out of season, but maybe there's one more on the ground. And then eventually that drive flattens out to go back because there just aren't any there anymore. But the next season, all it takes is one more nut, and we're right back there going back every day trying to find more and trying to eat more. Whatever the cause of that addiction, it could be the chocolate cake, or it could be any of the various. Some people are cookie holics, and so this is a tough one, and it is a personal um, uh, drive that starts to occur. That willpower isn't enough to overcome that. It is for the short term. You can say no to yourself a day or two or three in a row, but you've got to get outside of that seasonality piece. And family are, my wife is not whole food plant based, and she is very sensitive to not wanting to bring things into the house when I'm here. I was going to go out for dinner with a friend, and I was supposed to leave by 5:30 or so, and I hadn't left the house till 6 o'clock. And she said, "Oh, when are you leaving again?" She wanted to order pizza, but she didn't want to order the pizza till I was gone. So I felt that was very sensitive on her part. But on the other hand, I don't want her not to make her traditional family chicken soup because she's fond of it, even though I won't have it.
But does it bother you if it's in the house?
It really does not, because I have myself kind of segmented what is food and what is not food.
Right.
And I can look at a chair and I know that's not food.
Mhm.
And so I look at her chicken soup and it's not food. Now, a candle can smell really great. It can be cinnamon, it could be apple spice, but it's not food. So I can enjoy her chicken soup and the aroma, but it's not food. Now, I
And
don't
just
know.
let her know that, just let her know that
I
it's
do,
okay.
I do, but she has her own sensitivities too, because as we
Um,
all do,
that's very nice of her.
yeah,
Yeah.
she, um, and she gradually is eating more of the plant-based foods because she's seeing the rest of the world is beginning, the research is beginning to become more well known about the health benefits of it.
Has she watched Forks Over Knives?
Yes, yes, and many years ago. And I don't try to push this on her.
You can't.
And you know, I've been doing this 10 years now. She thought it was going to be just a fad. And you know, people go on and off diets. This is not a diet. But I had my why. It's a health scare. And I had a recent why. I have a pacemaker and heart disease. And I recently had a calcium test, and you're supposed to have a score between 0 and 400. And if you're 3 to 400, you're at risk of having a heart attack within the next 5 years. So severe, you need to really get attention. Well, I have a calcium score of 1300. So my doctors went, you know.
Wow.
But I have a hunch that I actually had that calcium score 10 years ago and nobody tested it. And I went on the plant-based diet, and I go through all of my stress tests and all of the other. I don't have any blockage. I don't have any severe blockages. I have some blockage, but nothing that's shutting me down. And you know, I walk 5 miles a day, and I don't get out of breath, and shovel my own snow on the driveway, and you know, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, this whole thing of the family dynamics, we want to help support one another. If Lynn, you know, we go through recipe books together, and I ask her, what would you, out of the things that I can have, I'll be glad to make something. What would you like me to make that you would also try? And so that's one way that I try to help her. But I try to always have things that I can eat stacked up in the fridge, so that when my dopamine response kicks in and I'm grazing in the refrigerator, you open the refrigerator door and you look around, and it's like, all there is kale in there. I want something else.
Right.
So the baked potato is there. I can put the air fryer and make myself a nice fry. Thank you for the tip on the hummus, by the way.
It's wonderful.
I'm going to start getting that one.
Yeah, and, it's very good. They stopped selling it at Whole Foods for a while, and I think there were a lot of people asking for it, and it's back.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to, and different Whole Foods may have it or not. I don't know. So I may have to rattle a few chains to get it. And
I've made hummus myself. It just doesn't taste, I don't know, for some reason it doesn't come out as smooth as that one is.
I heard if you put some ice cubes into it and buzz it up with an ice cube, that helps, but I haven't tried that.
Makes it creamy. And I did a food demonstration yesterday at the library with hummus, and the other one it was two of us. One made the savory hummus, and the other one, I made a dessert hummus. So that is a quick, easy thing to get more, to feel like you're at least getting some legumes in, but it's a delight, you know. It's just with dates and chickpeas, you know, in it, type of thing, vanilla, those, you know, and just whip it up, and you feel like you're having a really rich snack, you know. So there's ways to do it, and it doesn't take long, but you got to practice it, and then you know you have a good go-to. I always know, like, oh yeah, I have it right now. I got leftovers in the fridge right now. I'm like, yeah, I'll just, you know, put an apple with that, and I'll be eating that,
Sounds
you know,
great.
tonight. So I do want to kind of close this out. It's over the hour, and it's 6:19, and in Idaho, so I think it's 6-7.
I have 7:19 in Chicago. It's probably 8:19
Yeah,
somewhere out
and
east.
Mike, you're after 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna thank the host.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Anne, for facilitating. Always fun.
Yeah, it's fun to work with you.
Have a good week, Rob.
Yeah, and feel free to connect with us in the chat on PBNSG. Honestly, this is what we have our own little stories about these type of things. So
and you've got my email. just shoot me an
Yeah.
email. I don't care if people call me up, shoot me an email. You can
Yeah,
send it
right.
out. And
Yeah.
just put a little plug in for our April weight loss support group. I'm having another amazing speaker who actually was going blind, and she reversed all of her vision problems. And she's now a Food for Life instructor. So very, very inspiring.
And then all the other things for those that are new, there's diabetes, inflammation, Real Men Eat Plants. Hope you guys are going to that one. I'd love to know what's going on in that world.
Real
But
men.
yeah, no women allowed. Getting started with Tanya Hicks weight loss, of course, with Barb. And there's an Alzheimer's one, plant-based living in an omnivore household. So
That might be a
think
good
there's
one, right? That'd be a good one for people who have issues with family members not going
Yeah.
plant-based.
Yep. All right, folks.
Thank
Nice
you.
to have y'all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a
Bye.
good
Good
night.
seeing you
Bye,
all.
everybody. Happy
See you
spring.
all.
Take care. Yes. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and for being a part of the PBNSG community. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for even more plant-based insights, expert interviews, and delicious recipes.